Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to another edition of my Detroit Sports Show right here on blogtalkradio.com from the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan. I'm Taylor Phillips. In this episode, I am checking back in on the Lions, who are coming off a bye week after winning in thrilling fashion over the Cowboys at home. And if you have opinions or just spontaneously want in the conversation, you can call in as a co-host or a guest by phone at 646-478-4837. That's 646-478-4837. The show will be 15 to 30 minutes long as always, and then after the show is all said and done, it'll be archived so you can all listen to it again because it's recorded. Again, the guest phone number is 646-478-4837. You can also search me on Facebook, Taylor Phillips, at facebook.com/Phil1DT, although Facebook is having some loading problems right now. You can also search my Detroit Sports page, Taylor Phillips's Detroit Sports page, at facebook.com/Taylor's Sports page, Taylor's Sports page, with no apostrophe and two S's between Taylor and Ports. And in Taylor Phillips's Detroit Sports group, and you can tweet me back on Twitter with your opinions on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Just in case you are unable to make it on the show by phone, you can also search me on LinkedIn, Taylor Phillips. There's also a chat window on blogtalkradio.com via my studio if you want to comment your opinions on there. Now, before we begin, here are the guidelines for all the listeners of tonight's show. Number one, if you had made a co-host call-in or guest call-in, stay on the line, remain on the line, so I can get to you for a talk. If you hang up by mistake, not a big deal. Just redial this number, 646-478-4837, and then stay on the line. You'll have a total of 30 minutes to do so until the show concludes, or less, 30 minutes or less. Number two, keep it very clean. No profanity, vulgar stuff, or graphic violence talk, or threats or anything, criticism of the host, distasteful disregard, or anything below the belt of any subject matter. This is a friendly show, and it's more precise as well. Number three, speaking of friendly, treat each other with respect. Don't verbally abuse one another, or I'll mute you for the remainder of the show. Number four, if you don't know much about Detroit sports, you can still just listen to my show for education and entertainment. Number five, if you have any corrections I should make, spit it out. Number six, stay on the topic with me. You can still talk about anything you want, but it has to stay within the subject matter of the program. As the host of my own show, I'd be much more comfortable with that. For example, when I'm talking about the Lions, then I don't want to talk about the Wings, especially when they're still struggling at home. We all know that. Try not to mess with my mind. And number seven, I will ask at least one question as the show rolls along. All right, let's begin. We're going to go back to 2 Sundays ago, and the Lions came back from down 20 to 10. They battled hard and hard. It was a seesaw battle. The Cowboys were leading in most of the game, but Matthew Stafford led his team all the way from 80 yards to the house in just about 50 seconds, starting from a minute and 2 left in the game to 12 seconds left. And when they got inside the 1, Matthew Stafford's faked a spike attempt, and he just dove right into the end zone for the touchdown. To tie the score at 30, technically. It had to be reviewed because all scoring plays are reviewed. And they just made sure it stood, and it did. And it was a thrilling win, for sure. Extra point was good. And the Cowboys had a chance to come back, but they fumbled the ball. And once somebody pounced on it, time ran out. The Lions won 31-30. Excuse me, I'll be right back. Gotta clean something, my glass. Alright, I'm back. So with that, the Lions were trying to ride the momentum through the bye week and into Sunday's contest at Soldier Field in Chicago. They were waiting for their wide receiver Nate Burleson to return, but he was limited, as well as Calvin Johnson was, in practice earlier this week. And they finally decided today that Burleson was going to be out for this Sunday, along with 5 other players, including Ezekiel Ansah at defensive end. They were missing practice earlier today, and they were ruled doubtful to top off the Licorice Sunday. So two of them, two more of them were cornerback Bill Bentley and offensive tackle Corey Hilliard. There was an article that on mlive.com/Lions that's saying that 5 players were to five players missed practice, including Ansah. And it only listed 3 of them. Oh, they're the other 2. safety Louis Delmas and tailback Reggie Bush. They are actually both expected to play this Sunday against the Bears. By the way, I am simulcasting this talk show on YouTube. You can search me there via Google, Taylor Phillips. I have a Google account attached to my YouTube. Hey, everyone. So, with Delmas and Bush returning to the lineup, the Lions could use a little the offense and the defense that they have right now, but sometime soon down the road, as the schedule rolls along, they would expect Nate Burleson to return to the lineup as well. Rookie Devin Taylor is expected to start in his place Sunday against the Bears. He suffered a knee. Bentley suffered a knee injury. Bill Bentley, that is, at their top nickelback. So it appears that there are seven. It appears to me that there are 7 Lions players that missed practice today, including Devin Taylor. And Corey Hilliard, that, as you guys might have known already, has not played since the game where they suffered a stunning loss via field goal to the Bengals of Cincinnati the week before they beat Dallas due to an injured knee. And rookie LaAdrian Waddle took his place in the win against the Cowboys, and he's done well. So look for LaAdrian Waddle to continue his defensive warpath on the field. Help his defense force 3 and outs for the Bears this Sunday at Soldier Field in Chicago. So, for the Bears, their quarterback Jay Cutler is expected to return. He's listed as probable. There are 3 Bears players that are already ruled out. Linebacker Lance Briggs with a shoulder. Long snapper Patrick Manley, that's also the center, or the long snapper for the field goal kicks and the punts on special teams, with a calf injury. And recently signed defensive tackle Jay Ratliff with a groin. Man, just hate when that happens, when you recently sign a player and he suffers a groin injury just like that. It can happen for any team. In that area, the Bears probably just can't catch a break. But another player for the Bears is listed as doubtful. That is starting defensive end Shea McClellan, after injuring his hamstring in practice earlier this week. So I'm going to go ahead and preview Week 10 on FoxSportsDetroit.com. Lions at Bears, 5 things to watch. Here we go. No division race is tighter than the three-way tie for first place in the NFC North midway through the season. 2 of these teams, the Lions and Bears, both 5-3, meet Sunday afternoon at Soldier Field in Chicago. They're in a 3-way tie, by the way, folks, in that division with the Green Bay Packers. So Lions fans, you have to hope that the Packers lose and the Lions beat the Bears in order for the Lions to claim the lone first place position. But here are the 5 things to watch, 5 storylines to follow. Number 1, the turnover battle. The Lions are going for a rare sweep of the season against the Bears. Detroit has won both games only 4 times in the last 29 years, the most recent coming in 2007. Chicago has 11 2-game sweeps during that time. Ouch. Been 6 years. In their first meeting in Week 4 at Ford Field, the Lions roared to a 24-point lead before the Bears made it appear closer in the end, 40-32. After hearing all week leading up to that game about Chicago's ball-hawking defense, the Lions D turned it up and forced 4 turnovers, including 3 interceptions by Bears quarterback Jay Cutler. Lions coach Jim Schwartz quoted, "I really don't think we played very well other than that. We covered up a lot of mistakes we made by getting turnovers." Unquote. Defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh had a dominating performance with 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for a loss, and a forced fumble that turned into a touchdown for Nick Fairley. At that point, the Lions had 11 takeaways in 4 weeks, but they've gotten just 2 more in the last 4 games, including none against Dallas, Cincinnati, and Green Bay. But their defense, in my opinion, has still been holding them to not very many points. -30, to be exact. The Packers scored like 22 points to 9 in that loss at Lambeau Field. The Bengals scored 27 in their thrilling victory over us, and the Cowboys scored 30, of course, when the Lions came back and beat them in thrilling fashion. Schwartz quoted again, "We're at our best when our defensive line is creating some havoc and forcing turnovers," unquote. Nobody does that week in, week out better than the Bears defense. It's an otherwise mediocre unit, ranking 29 in points allowed, 26 in total defense, 29 in rushing defense, 29th, and 23rd in passing defense. But Chicago is tied for 4th in turnover ratio +8, largely because of 19 takeaways, 11 interceptions, and 8 fumble recoveries, not to mention scoring 4 defensive touchdowns. Which defense is going to force the most turnovers this time? I would say that if the Lions kept up their defensive forced issues against the Bears, if the Lions defense kept forcing issues against the Bears offense, despite the home crowd, which is only an excuse, I would think the Lions defense would stop them like for like 2 or 3 touchdowns, and Stafford will do the rest if he can. Number 2, Megatron versus Peanut. When you compare nicknames, Megatron sounds far superior to Peanut. But the truth is that Detroit receiver Calvin Megatron Johnson has been contained by Chicago cornerback Charles Peanut Tillman better than anyone in the league. In 11 games since Johnson entered the league in 2007, he has averaged only 37.9 receiving yards and scored 2 touchdowns when matched up against Tillman, according to Fox Sports. Many of Johnson's worst games have come against the Bears, and Tillman, a second-round draft pick in 2003, coming out of Louisiana Lafayette. Fox analyst Jay Glazer quoted, "Sometimes styles make matchups." That's the case here. Obviously, Peanut knows something. He's able to dissect something here with Calvin and that nobody else is, unquote. Not surprisingly, Tillman hasn't shared his secrets, but he could be catching Johnson at a bad time in this one. Megatron is coming off a game 2 weeks ago when he had 14 catches on 16 targets for 329 yards against Dallas, which is another record setter. Calvin Johnson quoted, "I always look forward to this game when it comes," unquote, facing the Bears. Much of that is the importance of the divisional rivalry, but it's the individual matchup too. Johnson quoted with admission, "The competition with Tillman, they've got some good guys over there, some professionals that do well at their scheme, whether it be playing a cover two safeties deep. They do a good job at staying deep," unquote. Can a Peanut slow down a Megatron one more time? Don't hold your breath, but we've said that before. Number 3, Stafford breaking records. Quarterback Matthew Stafford needs to throw for only 287 yards to become the Lions' all-time passing leader. He would surpass Bobby Lane, who went for 15,710 yards from 1950 to 1958. That tells you 3 things. Stafford at age 25 is pretty darn good. The game has changed enormously since Lane played, and the Lions haven't had any prolific quarterbacks. Stafford, a former number 1 draft pick overall from the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs, is in his 5th NFL season and trying to lead the Lions to the playoffs for the 2nd time. Offensive coordinator Scott Linehan quoted, Stafford's really just kind of entering the prime of his career. There's not too many people that can do what he's done at this point in his career. He did it in high school, he did it in college, and he's doing it in the NFL. That's just kind of been his life," unquote. Don't expect a big celebration when Stafford breaks Lane's record, but he will feel good about the moment. Stafford quoted, "I have a lot of respect for the history of this game and this franchise too. Anytime you break a record, it's a humbling experience," unquote. Number 4, the offensive line upgrade. Asked how much the Bears have improved their offensive line this year, receiver Brandon Marshall laughed uncontrollably out loud. He quoted, "There's no comparison," unquote. Chicago added 2 veteran free agents on the left side in tackle German Bushrod from New Orleans Saints and guard Matt Slauson from the New York Jets. like the Lions, who are currently standing third-round pick Larry Warford at guard and undrafted free agent Ladrian Waddle at tackle. The Bears have two rookies on the right side. Guard Kyle Long, son of Hall of Famer Howie Long, was the 13th pick overall out of Oregon, while tackle Jordan Mills was taken in the 5th round out of Louisiana Tech. Marshall quoted, "Those two rookies that we have, it's amazing to see their growth day in and day out," unquote. Long struggled in his matchup against Sioux the first time, but he's been playing much better in the recent weeks. How that line holds up against Detroit's front four here could be decisive, especially with Cutler likely not at full strength. At number 5, it's a matchup of two of the game's most versatile running backs. Chicago's Matt Forte ranks 3rd in yards from scrimmage with 974, 658 rushing, and 316 receiving. Detroit's Reggie Bush is 7th with 853 yards, 518 rushing, 335 receiving, despite missing one game because of an injury. Forte had a good day the last time against Detroit, breaking a 53-yard run for a touchdown. But Bush had his best game as a Lion, rushing for 139 yards, including a 37-yard score, while taking advantage of Chicago's scheme designed to contain Johnson in the deep passing game. The Lions will need another of Bush's top performances to win on the road. Bears coach Mark Trestman quoted, "Bush played exceptionally well. He made people miss. He's a difference-making player in the run and pass. We've got to do a better job to try to neutralize him," unquote. And there's the injury report I see here. Lions running back Montel Owens, a strong special teams player, is eligible to return from the short-term injured list after missing the first 8 games because of a knee injury. And there you see Aaron Rodgers for Green Bay, not involved in this matchup, listed as doubtful with a hamstring issue. Lions fans are hoping Aaron Rodgers is out through
90 seconds.
Thanksgiving Day, when the Lions host the Packers. Another big matchup in the NFC North. And long snapper, defensive tackle Henry Melton for the Bears has been on the injured list for weeks following season-ending knee surgery.
60 seconds.
And long snapper Patrick Manley with a calf injury also will not play. And Fox Sports Detroit picks the Lions. So do I. I will think the Lions will beat the Bears in overtime, 20-17. So that's about all the time and ground I have to cover for tonight's Lions Midnight edition of my Detroit Sports Show. Coming up tomorrow at midnight, I will cover the Red Wings, who have now lost 4 in a row at home. Don't know, not sure why. Just find ways to lose. But I'll cover them for tomorrow. Until then, this is Taylor Phillips signing off. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.